Leroy Butler, the ex-Green Bay superstar and Hall of Famer, says that the Pittsburgh Steelers can win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, and I completely agree. Aaron Rodgers threw for over 4,000 yards last year and 28 touchdowns. He is far from washed up. This is a production business, and his production speaks for itself. I also believe the Steelers have a lot of great players, all the right pieces in place for Aaron Rodgers to win a Super Bowl. The offensive line, Troy Fontanano, it's only going to get better. Pat Freiermuth, I didn't like losing Najee Harris at all. People just take for granted how good he was. Oh, just another 1,000 yards season for Najee, average 4 yards a carry, no big deal, who cares? When you had a quarterback that was absolutely no threat to the defense whatsoever, and Najee Harris still had this production for 4 years and never missed a game. I'm a big Najee guy. I think the Steelers fans are going to realize how good he was now that he's gone. So let's jump into what Leroy Butler had to say. If he comes in, I think you have a legitimate chance to get to the Super Bowl, Butler said via the Go Long TD podcast hosted by Ty Tuane. If Aaron Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh, you can expect them to be in the Super Bowl. They'll be my Super Bowl pick if he goes there, and I couldn't agree more. And here's another thing, because a lot of people are going to say, well, Leroy Butler, he played with Aaron Rodgers, so he's going to say all the right things. No, he's not. He's been very critical of Aaron Rodgers the last couple of years, probably for political purposes, because Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, there's nothing to dislike. His time in Green Bay was up. They brought in a younger, stronger arm at this point. Aaron Rodgers trained Jordan Love, and Jordan Love always says how much he loves Aaron Rodgers for being unselfish and making him the player that he is today. Leroy Butler also went on to say, Aaron got to give up the control, and I think Pittsburgh is the only team that can do that. Butler said he has to give up the control and really become not the bird that comes in with the worm feeding one of the babies. He has to be one of the babies with his mouth open. Want to receive coaching and receive the whole team concept. And the only place that can do that is Pittsburgh, because Mike Tomlin ain't going for what the Jets went for. See, I don't believe that standpoint. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets and said, I'm doing it my effing way and everybody's going to listen to me and I'm a spoiled diva. No, I believe that Aaron Rodgers went to the New York Jets, and they're a franchise with such bad leadership from top to bottom, and it was so disorganized and discombobulated. He went over there and he got things in line, because that's what leaders do. And he won't have to do that, meaning Aaron Rodgers, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because we all know Mike Tomlin loves to drive the ship. So there'll be no, gray area what Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers want from Aaron Rodgers. When you go to the New York Jets, I guarantee, I would literally bet my life that when Aaron Rodgers got to the New York Jets, nothing was in concrete, meaning the team, the structure, the coaching staff, their identity. So they probably left it up to Rodgers, and Rodgers, being the leader that he is, took control and made the best out of the situation. That's what you want in your quarterback. Leroy Butler also went on to say he'll be able to go off into the sunset like John Elway. Butler said, to all the Go Long subscribers, I'm standing on business. Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh, they win the Super Bowl, and I agree. I feel the same way. We had a top 10 defense that would have been a top 5, top 3 defense if we had any offensive production whatsoever. You got DK Metcalf, George Pickens, I hope he's gone. I hope we get picks for him. But Calvin Austin, we have Pat Freiermuth. We have really good players in a lot of positions. We are not that far off from winning it. We just need a quarterback, and we're going to get one in Aaron Rodgers. It's also being reported by Jerry Dulac that Russell Wilson hoped to remain with Steelers right up to the end. Russ, oh boy. Someone needs to tell him it's over. Russell Wilson finally caved and agreed to terms with the New York Giants last night, but according to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's Jerry Dulac, he held out hope to stay in Pittsburgh all the way until the bitter end. Russell Wilson wanted to remain with the Steelers right up to the end before he agreed to a deal with the Giants per sources, Dulac wrote. Do you know why Russell Wilson wanted to be a Steeler? Because as long as Mike Tomlin was coach, he would probably be the starter no matter how bad he was. So he's going to have to go to the New York Giants, a worse team, and he might have to fight for his job, and he's probably not going to beat out the quarterback in front of him. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. Russell Wilson, you had a great career. You got another one-year deal for $20 million. I'm happy for you, happy for your family. I'm just happy it's not as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Your time is up. Then, of course, you have Stephen A. Smith. I can't even believe Stephen A. Smith gets paid to say these kinds of things. Stephen A. Smith goes on ESPN this morning and says that the New York Giants are automatic Super Bowl contenders with Russell Wilson as the quarterback. Did you watch any of the games this year that Russell Wilson played? I mean, come on, Stephen A. Smith. Do you get told to say these dumb things? Because if you watched one Steeler game last year, you will know that Russell Wilson is not the same player he was 8 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. As every minute goes by, Russ gets worse and worse just from father time. That's why ESPN is unwatchable at this point. For Stephen A. Smith to get on the TV this morning, and the first thing he says is, oh, the New York Giants are Super Bowl contenders, tells you all you need to know about ESPN. Here's another delusional teammate of George Pickens. Demarvin Leal told the Psychotic and Iconic Sports podcast, George is very misunderstood. This is damn near my locker buddy, so you see and you hear everything. I just think he's emotional about everything. He hates to lose. He loves to win. He loves to get the friggin' ball. He loves to make people look stupid in the process. Give me a break, man. Just come on. Just stop. Every time George Pickens caught a pass, he would do something stupid and cause his team to lose 15 yards. Demarvin Leal, just stop. George Pickens, late to practice every day, late to games, doesn't show up for practice, makes you-know-what gestures, costs his team 15 yards when he makes first downs. The behavior towards the reporters in the locker room, causing friction among his teammates. Just stop. All right? How about just don't make a comment and just be quiet? Because you sound absolutely ridiculous right now. If George Pickens was that guy that the Steelers wanted to make their franchise or base their franchise around, George Pickens would have got the money that DK Metcalf received. That tells you everything you need to know about the Steelers' feelings about George Pickens. If they wanted him to be that guy, he would have got paid the money to be that guy. Even in a contract year hanging over his head, George Pickens couldn't behave himself for 17 weeks to make $100 million. If that can't keep him in line, trust me, nothing else will. It's time to say goodbye to George Pickens. Colin Cowherd says Steelers are incredibly delusional, shouldn't have given Mike Tomlin an extension. But here's the problem that I have with Colin Cowherd. He's also the same guy in the same segment last night that compared Shedeur Sanders to Matt Stafford coming out of college. So you just got to take what Colin Cowherd says sometimes with a grain of salt. Colin Cowherd went on to say, who gave Tomlin an extension? They can't figure out offense. It's a 7-year run on bad quarterback and O-line play, and it's one of the biggest brands in the league, Cowherd said on the Colin Cowherd podcast. You know, whenever I hear Steelers fans or the media say, fire Tomlin, I never hear them say, who should replace Tomlin? This is a different NFL than the 90s, the early 2000s. We're dealing with a bunch of millionaires who don't like to get hit, who are super emotional all the time. Bunch of divas, bunch of babies. I would like to see the next person come in and drive this ship so smoothly. Everybody thinks it's going to be such a smooth transition. I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that with today's players. The only thing that I'll question about Tomlin is his game management sometime and his unwillingness to change things when things aren't working. Art Rooney loves Mike Tomlin so much that Mike Tomlin could literally coach the Steelers until his health gave out. And here's a way that Mike Tomlin could honestly coach the Steelers till he's 80 years old. Mike, if things aren't working, if a coordinator's not working and it's just change it. You could drive the ship till you're 80 years old, literally. But if you refuse to change things when things are going bad, you are going to cause your own termination. I don't mean when you're trying to figure things out or you're trying to get your offense settled. I don't mean just abandon something in a week. But when it's proven not to work week in and week out, and the same defense that was ran, 10 years ago, when you refuse to change things and you're losing, people are more likely to call for you to be fired. If they know that you're doing everything you can to be successful and it's failing, the fans, I know you don't really care so much what all the fans think. A lot of the fans have no clue what they're talking about. They just want to win, and they don't understand sometimes that it's a process to win. It's a process to win the Super Bowl, to get the pieces in place. Like what happened with Big Ben. All the pieces were in place. The Steelers finally found Big Ben. 2 years later, they win a Super Bowl. If they see that the Steelers and Mike Tomlin are always making changes during that process to make things better, when you lose, it's easier to digest. When you see the same thing week in and week out, and forget me saying that, when you have NFL players saying that, whether they played for the Steelers or played against the Steelers, then you're going to start causing yourself to have a lot of problems. Hey, nobody wants Mike Tomlin to be more successful than I do. I don't care if we have the same coach into the year, 2040, 2050. I don't care. As long as we're always moving in the right direction. And I know that you just can't abandon things as a coach when things aren't going right. So you need to keep at it sometimes. And I agree with that notion. But sometimes when it's just not working, you need to change things. There's nothing wrong. Look, remember when the Steelers had a transition to the passing game? They had Franco Harris and Rocky, and then they got Lynn Swann and John Stallworth and Terry Bradshaw, and the offense went from pounding you with the run to airing it out downfield. They changed. They had the personnel. They mixed it up, and they won. And that's not an easy thing to do. It's not so easy to change your identity like that. But they had to change because those were the players that they had. And if Mike Tomlin does things like that, he's willing to act like, as Bruce Lee would say, water in the cup, and be able to change, he will last a lot longer in Pittsburgh as the head coach.